And a pleasant good afternoon to everyone out there in Irish Breakdown land. I am Vince D'Addario. I am the football analyst at irishbreakdown.com. And that guy right there, that's not Brian Driscoll. That's my guy, Shaun Davis. And he's been nice enough to join me again to talk about everything that is college football from over the weekend. And, of course, we are going to chat about some Notre Dame football and just going to have some fun for the next hour. I'm really looking forward to it. How you doing, Shaun?
I'm doing wonderful. Hi to all the Irish fans out there. Hey, first quarter, we're 3-0. That's all
right.
That matters.
Bottom line, right?
All that matters.
And it's funny how we have to keep reminding everybody of that. Look, has it been pretty? Not really.
No.
You know, there's been sparks, there's been good things, but bottom line, 3-0. It's a good thing that. And we broke down the schedule, all summer, and we talked about it. And it's a good first quarter for Notre Dame. It's a chance to, figure some things out, get things going in the right direction. They got through it. Now it's going to get interesting, right? I mean, it Wisconsin, Cincinnati. I mean, this is where it gets the rubber meets the road, as they say, for Notre Dame.
Yeah, this is one of those seasons that you look back. I truly believe one of those seasons you'll look back at this time of this season, and you'll realize when you're the number 1 or 2 team in the nation in a year or two, this is where it started. This is where the foundation was laid with all the young players that are getting playing time. It's growing pains. We understand that. We understand the frustration that all the fans have, but just be patient and understand that something is being built and they have a plan. The coaches, Brian Kelly and everybody, they do have a plan in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to see that plan come to fruition a little earlier than, maybe some people are thinking it might happen. But, we'll see what happens. Again, 3-0, that's a good thing. So let's dive, first of all, into the Brian Kelly press conference. It just got over a couple of minutes ago, his noon Monday press conference. A couple of takeaways. Number one, Prince Kollie will be available to the team this week, which will be great. They're going to work him out today at practice, see where he's at. Brian Kelly specifically said he's looking to get him in for J.D. Bertrand, give J.D. a little bit of a breather because, look, I think Shaun and I can both agree that J.D. has been friggin' amazing at will linebacker this year, but he can't play every snap. And it's a long season. You need somebody to give you some respite, and they're hoping that Prince Kollie can be that guy. So the Prince Kollie era is upon us. I'm pretty fired up about it.
As all fans know, you love seeing the manifestation on the field on game day of what you hear over the summer.
Yeah.
About certain players. And we heard about this kid always being around the ball and making plays over the summer. And to see it show up, on game days, on Saturday. It's absolutely amazing. He's a playmaker. He's making plays all over the field. And as you guys talked about, the linebacking core was much better, much better against Purdue. And hopefully we realize and we'll see that continued growth on a weekly basis. I just think the team overall is getting better.
Yeah. Better. I think so. It's incremental steps for the offense. Obviously, some guys just didn't have a good game yesterday. I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah.
And I want to get your thoughts on Notre Dame in just a second. I'm trying to think of some other things from the Brian Kelly press conference. He did mention Rocco Spindler is getting a lot better. That's the first time we've really heard his name brought up.
Yeah.
So does that mean we're going to see him in a game? I don't know. He said Michael Carmody looks like he may be back, so there's going to be maybe a rotation between him and Tosh Baker at left tackle. I think we're going to see guys coming in and out on the offensive line. I think that's just kind of where we are with the offensive line. But again, as you mentioned, that's something that can propel them into the future. A lot of young guys are getting time. Joe Alt, I thought he played really, really well. And Brian Kelly mentioned him as well. They've got 4 tackles right now in Carmody, in Baker, in Fisher, and Alt that they love. They love all 4 of those guys. And he basically said, those guys are going to be playing for us someday. They're not all necessarily ready yet, but they're all going to be playing someday. That's good news.
I think in all 3 press conferences that we've seen on Mondays, the one thing that stood out is we haven't seen Brian Kelly in previous years give much credence or conversation to freshmen being on the field. So from a recruiting standpoint, I think an adjustment has been made by Brian Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him make an adjustment in 2017 after the 2016 season that allowed the program to get to this point. And I think he's heeded the advice of some people in the building. And in order to continue to close the gap on the likes of Clemson and Alabama, you have to be able to play your freshmen and get them on the field.
Sure.
And get them to get ready earlier. Just from a depth standpoint, it's really good. And I think, as I said before, that is the plan. Let's get these guys ready. It just so happens the season that we're in, he said transition multiple times also in all 3 press conferences. He believes this is a transitional year. I believe that as well. If you can win 10 games in a transitional year, that bodes very well for your program. And like I said, we'll look back at this season in another year or two and say that was the foundation of a number one or number 2 team in the nation going into a title game. I really believe that. I think Brian Kelly is becoming even more of a CEO. You saw him on Saturday sitting down with the offense while the game was going on, sitting there in the chair saying, look, let's get this done. Let's get that done. And I just love that side of him. Now, you talked about the offensive line. I believe in the young talent. I believe when they recruited them, both of us thought, yeah, these are some really good players that he's getting on the offensive line. The question is the development, right?
Absolutely.
Are they being developed? Are they being taught? And one of the things you have to talk about is going from practice and taking what you learn into the game and being able to adjust on the fly. You're young. We expect mistakes, but can you learn from those mistakes, depend on your fundamentals, and then go play?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think you guys talked about it in one of your shows this weekend. You saw more effort.
And that's step one. I mean,
absolutely.
I would have liked to see that in game 1, obviously, but we're starting to see it. And that's a good thing, you know? And when for example, Zeke Correll was good, he was really good.
Yeah.
Now, when he was bad, he was really bad. Those good need to outweigh the bads, and they don't yet, right? Yeah. And that's kind of where we're at. So, you know, things are getting better, but they need to get a lot better, a lot quicker because they've got Wisconsin in 6 days, 5 days now, right? So I see a comment over here I do want to address from Justin. He says, no mention of whether Botelho has gotten up to game speed yet. He needs to be on the field at least as a depth player on defense and not just special teams. So, Justin, you got to remember they haven't practiced yet since the game. So that question, I guarantee you, will be asked on Thursday during Brian Kelly's press conference. That's after they've had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday's worth of practice. Maybe not Thursday, but Thursday's really just a walkthrough anyway. But they'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday under their belt. They'll have a better idea of, you know, what Michael Carmody's role might be, what Botelho's role might be. They haven't had practice. They haven't even seen the guys yet this week. So they don't know if he's up to speed. But I agree with you. Botelho needs to be in on defense. He just adds depth across the board. He can do things that the guys on the defense can't do. And the defense is still really good. So, you know, you add him and they get even better. So Justin, just keep that thought in your head because we all want to see Botelho on the field, right, Shaun?
Yeah, he's going to get back. And Brian Kelly mentioned the same thing. I think he was asked about, you know, did he mention or say anything to the players on Sunday about their performance? I think it was the wide receiver core he was asked about specifically. And he was like, no, we give them their day off. I won't see them until practice. And then at that point in time, we'll talk to them about the improvements they need to make. But every player on this team knows what they need to do to get on the field, to get more playing time. And I expect Jordan's no different. He knows he needs to get himself in shape, not only physically, but mentally, to be able to go out there and give them some positive game reps.
Absolutely. And he gave him positive reps on special teams. So that's step one for him, getting him back to where he needs to be. Because, you know, you guys got to remember also, you know, they knew that they weren't going to have him available to them early on in the season. So he didn't get a ton of reps in fall camp. I mean, he was with the third team. Third team doesn't get the same amount of reps as the first team or the second team. So they're going to start adding to his volume and they're going to get him back to where he needs to be. And they weren't really sure when they were going to get him back. So they couldn't have him taking reps from guys that they knew they could get on the field etc. They were playing that game, that unknown game, but now they know they got him back. Now they can start increasing his workload. So, I'm as excited as anybody to see number 12 on defense get in the game. And speaking of number 12, offensively, number 12, Tyler Buckner. They seem confident that he will be available on Saturday. It sounds like if it was an emergency situation, they might have been able to bring him in this past Saturday, but just kind of strain that hamstring. That's something you don't want to mess around with, especially from a guy who his thing is running the football. And so you want to make sure he's going to get treatment. He's going to get better, but you want to make sure he's right, or else he's not any good to you. I mean, you don't need him to come in and throw the ball. You need him to come in and add a spark to your offense running the ball.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that he's right first.
The football guys, they're funny, right? Because this should be the Jack Cohn game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is his game. This is his week. Brian Kelly tried to deflect, but Jack Cohn really wants this game. And his teammates really want this game for him. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. They're going to go out there. They're going to play football the right way. But in the back of their minds, they're going to have a little extra motivation to support Jack Cohn to get the victory. And other than that, I just think that Tyler Buckner was going to be more important for the Cincinnati game from a scheme standpoint, in my opinion. I believe Jack Cohn and this offense can go out and do everything necessary to get a victory over Wisconsin. But I do think you need both guys to give Cincinnati some fits because of the style of defense that they play, which is similar to what we've seen from Notre Dame's defense.
Sure.
They want to be disruptive, and to have somebody that can be that changeup off of the fastball that is Jack Cohn, that bodes well to get you some big plays and throw Cincinnati off and get them on their heels. So let's, rest them up.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Get him right.
Make sure he's there for Cincinnati. But if you need him in an emergency, heaven forbid, nothing happens to Jack Cohn and he stays healthy throughout the entire game, Notre Dame should be fine at that position.
Well, and, obviously we're going to talk more about Wisconsin as we move forward, but you got me excited here, Shaun. So, I love Notre Dame's defense. I think they're going to hold that Wisconsin offense in check. I really do. And I'm going to dive into the Wisconsin film starting probably tonight or tomorrow. And but if Wisconsin can't score, they can't win. You know what I mean? And look, Wisconsin's defense is really, really good, but so are the skill guys that Notre Dame has. Yeah. And it may not look pretty all the time, but Notre Dame they're going to score. And if the defense does what I think they're going to do, the offense just has to hold up, kind of their end of the bargain, and they get this victory. That's how I see things. And look, Jack Cohn has outplayed Graham Mertz so far this season, and really hasn't even been that close. So,
absolutely,
if it's a tail of the tape situation, I'm glad that we got Jack Cohn and they got Graham Mertz right now, right? Yeah. So, we'll see what happens, and we'll dive into it more as we go.
If you're going to hop into that Wisconsin film, make sure you have 2 Mountain Dews. You're going to need something to help you stay awake.
I know, right?
Not much to it. But, going into this game, it's important that we realize, I pointed out the last time I was with you, that the team that I thought, and I'm sure we'll get to the rest of the college football landscape.
Sure.
I just want to throw this in there. I told you about how impressed I was with Penn State's offense and that Sean Clifford missed multiple opportunities to get big plays against that Wisconsin secondary. And I think the same thing will happen for Jack Cohn and his wide receivers. There will be multiple opportunities for big plays against this secondary. If this offensive line can just hold up maybe for another half second, that's all.
Seriously, yeah.
Let's improve a half second from Purdue to Wisconsin, and I see 2 big plays in the passing game that should lead to touchdowns and be the ultimate difference in this game.
Well, let's talk about the Purdue game because we want to get your thoughts on what you saw. But I tell you what, I don't see Avery Davis. I'm sorry, not Avery Davis because he had a great game. I don't see Kevin Austin or Braden Lindsey combined both having as bad of a game in one game as they had on Saturday. I just don't see it. They've been too good for too long, making plays, doing what they need to do. I don't see that being the case. And we talked about it yesterday. Notre Dame has 6 legitimate threats in the passing game that they can go to. You got the 2 running backs. You got Michael Mayer. You got Braden Lindsey, Avery Davis, and Kevin Austin. That's 6 legit threats. And 3 guys were nowhere to be found because they took Michael Mayer away. Kevin Austin didn't have a catch, even though he was targeted 8 times. And Braden Lindsey dropped the touchdown in the end zone, right? So 3 guys that were nowhere to be found, and yet still Avery Davis steps up, does his thing. Both running backs stepped up, did their thing. You've got weapons. You've got that. That's my biggest takeaway from the offense. I want to get your thoughts on just the Purdue game in general, wherever you want to go, Shaun. The floor is yours.
It's amazing because Jack Cohn has to have a glimpse of what it was like being Tom Brady in New England, right? To have this big guy at tight end each and every week, that's a mismatch, a nightmare for defensive coordinators. And he's going to get doubled, and they're going to try to take him out of the game. And all of your running backs and wide receivers just end up running wide open. That's it. Yep. And all you need is time. That's what it was like with Tom Brady and Gronk, and that's what it's like with Jack Cohn and Michael Mayer. It's the same thing. And when you have talented wide receivers with speed, we talked about it. You guys talked about it. How many times were Braden Lindsey and Kevin Austin open by like 4 or 5 yards in the Purdue game? Had their guys beat. Plenty of opportunities. So it's not effort. The opportunities are there. They're playing hard. Yeah, they struggle to get off bump and run every now and then. In the middle of the game, Kevin Austin did make an adjustment. Outside release, they were stopping him, and he got inside and went up the field a couple of times. One time, Jack Cohn just overthrew him. So I think they'll watch the film. Hopefully, they'll watch the film. They'll get coached up this week, and they'll improve and get better. I don't know if Wisconsin's defensive backs are going to be as aggressive as Purdue was. Purdue was very aggressive, but I didn't think they would be that aggressive with their secondary. But they pretty much just said, this is the only way we're going to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
We have to blitz, pressure the quarterback, get him off his spot, and bump and run these guys and mess up the timing of this offense and just go for broke. And that's what they did. Right. And the opportunities were there. And if we execute each and every game, because we'll have those opportunities because of the talent in the passing game and the skilled position players that we have, the opportunities are going to be there. If we execute, Notre Dame should have no problem scoring 40 points, Vince.
Yeah, agreed.
Every week, they should have no problem scoring 40 points. It's all about execution from the offensive line to the quarterback to the skilled position players. If they all execute, we're going to score plenty of points.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that defense is kind of the blueprint for how, to affect Notre Dame and their offensive line and things of that nature, bringing multiple guys and making the offensive line have to pick and choose and things of that nature. But then you're one-on-one on the outside. And yes, they were doing bump and run and they were, rerouting Notre Dame's receivers and things, but it's one-on-one coverage out there, man. That's only going to last so long against these guys. I'm just saying, watching it from the stadium, watching those wide receivers do their thing, they were behind. They got steps on those guys multiple times. And if the safety is in bracket coverage over the tight end and you're going to leave one-on-one with Kevin Austin, Braden Lindsey, and Avery Davis, I like Notre Dame's chances. Let's just put it that way. I absolutely do. And so, we'll see what happens in the future. But if people are going to continue that blueprint of defense against Notre Dame, they're going to have a way to overcome that. I really do believe that. And
salute to Tommy Rees and to, Jack Cohn for not forcing it to Michael Mayer.
Right.
And using the other weapons. Because the play, I think you guys said it in your post-game show, the adjustment Tommy Rees made with that formation that led to Avery Davis's touchdown, they knew what Purdue had seen on film.
Mm-hmm.
They made the adjustment to go from the corner route to the post, knowing the safety was coming down to double Michael Mayer, and it was wide open.
Oh.
Avery Davis said it on the sideline. He said, as soon as I saw the coverage, I knew it was a touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a great route. I mean, he stemmed to the outside, comes back inside. I mean, he was open by 5-6 yards. I mean, that was a really, really good route and a good catch and a good throw. I mean, and give Jack Cohn credit. He had a terrible first half. Terrible. I mean, he was throwing the ball on the ground. He was overshooting his receivers. I mean, just not a good first half at all. But the second half
was high too. Everything was high. Yep. Overthrow. And it's good to have a guy with poise.
Yes.
That's played a lot of games, came out the second half, directed his focus and was right back on target. So definitely played a fantastic second half and struggled in the first half. But that's the type of guy Jack Cohn is. And that's a great guy in a transitional year. Once again, in most programs are forced to play Tyler Buckner.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly right. And knowing, Jack Cohn knew now, okay, well, Tyler's not going to be able to come in to help us out, give us a spark, whatever the case may be. It's on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And he responded.
He responded big time.
Yep. 2 weeks in a row.
This whole team responded to Toledo.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the entire team responded to that poor performance a week ago in the same stadium. They came out and, like you said, the defense set the tone.
Yeah.
I think the defense almost came into the game saying, we don't care what the offense does. This is our game.
Mm-hmm.
And they heard about Jeff Brom being a great play caller all week. They heard about the wide receivers. They heard about David Bell. They heard about Anthrop. And they decided we're going to take all of them out of the game. And we're going to dominate this team from our side of the ball. And that's what they did.
Right. Outside of a couple of mistakes, they had the corner fire by Clarence Lewis. And if he hits that tackle, it's a tackle for loss. Number one, it's not a 32-yard gain.
Perfect call, right?
It was a perfect call.
Yeah.
Perfect call. He just needs to execute it.
Yeah.
Right. So, here's what, we were all calling for what? Eliminate the big plays, right? And play a complete game. They did that. Like I said, if he makes that tackle, it's not a 32-yard gain, but it's also not a 65-yard gain like they were giving up in the first two games. They had 4 of those, right?
Yeah.
And then they didn't let Purdue score the last 22 minutes of the game. So complete game, check. No big plays, pretty much a check. You can call the 30-yard run a check, a big gain. I get that. And then the very next play, it felt like is when the David Bell had that pass interference, but he also caught the ball, right? So 2 semi-big plays right there, and that put him in scoring position. But other than that, 13 points against this Purdue offense, I'll take it. I will take that.
You talk about those 2 plays, and that's not even the most frustrating. That wasn't the most frustrating play for me. The most frustrating play for me, they had Purdue backed up. I think it was a great punt. They got them on the 1-yard line, and I think it was a 2nd and long. And they let Anthrop get loose down the middle of the field. And Jack Kaiser has to get just a little bit more depth. Now, I couldn't see. I wish I had the end zone view,
right,
to see it, because it looks like he bumped into the umpire there.
The official, yeah.
So I'm not sure how much that affected him.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that they had to pass at that point, it's like, get a little bit more depth and deflect that away. There's no way he should be able to split both linebackers and get down the field for that big play. But other than that, like you said, you have to live with big plays. This is college football. The other guys do have D1 scholarships as well.
Right.
So,
good point.
You can't shut them down for all 60.
Good point. Very good point. I like that. Okay, so Notre Dame's 3-0. Again, that is the bottom line here.
Yeah.
Big game on Saturday. The tension ratchets it up. The talent level on the other side of the ball ratchets up. It's a big game. And I think we're going to learn even more about Notre Dame after this game and continually, right? Because you've got Wisconsin, then you've got Cincinnati. Those are 2 right now huge games on this schedule. I don't feel necessarily the same way about North Carolina, USC, things like that as I did prior. These 2 games right here are absolutely huge. So we shall see.
It speaks to the multiple ways, or it will show if your team can win multiple types of games.
Right.
Different types of games.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The word they use is slobber knocker. Slobber knocker. In the home of George Halas and the Chicago Bears, where defense wins games and offense is at a premium. And we're going to have that same type of game. And Brian Kelly talked about it. I think he called it Wisconsin, the Big Ten version of Navy almost.
Yeah, because they want to possess the ball. Yeah, right.
And you have to score touchdowns. Can't score field goals. You have to score touchdowns. They're going to keep the possessions down. They're going to run the ball. And they're going to maintain time of possession. So when you get the opportunities, once again, there will be opportunities for big plays in this game.
Yep.
And when you get them, hit them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hit them, Notre Dame will have control of this game and should be able to handle Graham Mertz and that offense, which really doesn't have too much creativity. I think they might have a couple of tricks up their sleeve for this one because they're going to have a lot of red in the stadium. Technically, it's a home game for them.
Yeah, right.
Early start, 12. It's a 12 noon start, I believe. So
yeah, 11 o'clock your time.
Yeah, and, it's going to be a little chilly. It won't be as wonderful as the last two games in South Bend. It's going to be about 65 and a little windy coming off that lake. So
I'm sure.
Yeah, so I just expect a physical game, but I expect Notre Dame to go up. They're the better team. They are the better team. Just
Agreed.
Go out there and be the better team, and they shouldn't have a problem. Of course, we're not the ones on the field, right?
No, they don't want me on the field. That would not work out well for anybody.
No one's hitting us. So it's easy for us to say just go out there and just be the better team. But no, in all seriousness, Notre Dame should be able to win this game because they're the better team.
Agreed. We got a super chat I want to get to before we jump into the world of college football. Patrick Barnes, thanks, Patrick, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. He says, in his press conference today, Brian Kelly talked about an O-line rotation because guys were tired. Is an O-line rotation a normal thing for teams? No. It is not a normal thing for teams. So he talked about the guards getting tired, and he talked about Tosh getting tired. You notice he never said anything about Patterson getting tired or Lugg getting tired because those are the veterans or whatever. It's ridiculous. He never mentioned the offensive line getting tired last year. It's kind of a smokescreen for we need to get some other guys involved because of the play. Yeah. It has nothing to do with being tired. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Vince, let's just go ahead and translate it for him, right? In any sport, what happens when you get tired?
Yeah.
As a player, you start making mistakes, mental and physical.
Sure.
So in translation, he's just talking about, hey, guys are not being good. We have to get other guys in there, and we'll just mask it as them being tired. It's performance.
Yeah.
It's performance-based, and they know. They look at the film. I would like to say Kane Madden has taken a lot of backlash from fans.
Oh, yeah.
And he's earned it. Don't get me wrong. He's earned that backlash.
He's wearing it. Yeah.
He's wearing it. But on that touchdown run, he had a really good block.
Sure.
On the long run for KW. So,
when he blocks down,
yeah,
he's good. When he has to go forward, it's not so good. Or when he has to get out in space and get to the next level, not so good. But when he's blocking down, that plays into his strength, and that's what they did on that play. So, yeah.
And it's I guess I don't know if that's a matter of talent or if it's a matter of because some guys they can get this one fundamental thing, but if you ask them to put that fundamental in another situation, they can't perform at the same level, and that's across all sports.
Sure.
Vince, you're a coach. You try to get guys to go to their left and keep their legs down and don't let the ball, get through their legs. It's like every time you go this way, you struggle, but when you go this way or come forward, you're fine.
Right.
Same thing in football. Like you said, if he blocks down, he's very good. If he has to go forward and push that player back, I don't know if he needs to do some more squats or whatever it is. Get that anchor set, but whatever it is, hopefully he can make improvements. If not, you might see Christopher in there a little bit more or some of the other youngsters. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
Youngsters ready to play. Like I said, growing pains, but you'll look up in game 8, 9, and 10, and you'll be saying, okay, we're averaging 4 to 5 yards a game now.
Right. Absolutely.
That's what we want.
Well, look, and Kane Madden, he's a one and done, right? So he's not going to be here next year. So, of course, I want him to improve as the games go on.
Yeah.
But if you can get somebody else in there, get some reps, and they improve as they go on, they're going to be even better for next year, right? So not that I'm necessarily looking at next year. Don't get me wrong. I'm not flushing this season yet. But there's some benefits to getting some young guys in there. And if Kane is actually tired, then there's a benefit to that too, I suppose.
Vince, let me ask you a question because we always talk about this from quarterbacks. Like, when do you put the young guy in? on the offensive line, when do you go ahead and just say, you know what, just let the young guy rock?
For
just
like full time, just full time.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. If let's say we're talking about Caden Mann specifically, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and his play so far, I would be real close. And I said this going into last week, as far as if I was Jeff Quinn, I would be walking into the meeting room and I'd be like, look, guys, whoever gives me the best effort, whoever's going to be taking the fight to the other side of the ball, you're going to play. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to open up the competition. So like, we don't know what's happening at practice, right? So if the talent level is way below where Kane Madden is, which I can't imagine that it is, but hypothetically, if it's way below, then you still got to ride with your guy, right? But if it's getting a lot closer and it's starting to become kind of one of these,
right,
then I think you got to ride with the younger guy. I was having a chat with a buddy of mine earlier today. I've got some new seniors that are going to come out for the baseball team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I've got a sophomore who has been with me for a year already, and they got 3 years left in the program, and a new senior, and the talent level's right about here, guess who I'm holding on to? You know what I mean? Because that ceiling is higher. The length of time you're going to be with me is higher. So at some point, if the talent level's right there, I think you gotta make that call.
Yeah, and we've been spoiled around here when it comes to the offensive line. We really have.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to a lot of people in the NFL over the last 2 weeks because of our offensive line play. And multiple scouts have told me that when Notre Dame offensive linemen get to the NFL, they usually supersede the expectations.
Right.
One guy I heard about specifically was Mike McGlinchey. Like, they did not think he would be that good. They thought he would end up as a right tackle. They didn't think he would be that good at the tackle position.
Right.
And he's exceeded expectations. I think Zach Martin was kind of on par. Quentin Nelson was kind of on par because he came back and became net dominant. But even Ronnie Stanley was looked at as, he's good, but we want to see, can he be nasty? And you saw how important he was and how he has been to the Baltimore Ravens team and Lamar Jackson when he's there and when he's not there. When he got into last year, you definitely saw the difference. So that goes back to coaching. Like, what aren't they getting?
Right.
They're good at Notre Dame, but why is it when they get this type of coaching at the pro level, they take an even greater step and become better than what most people thought they would be in the NFL? You have to ask the question, what's missing in that variable, or what's the variable there that's missing in that equation?
I completely agree with that. And people can make their own assumptions from that, but I'm with you 100%. Let me tell you.
I tried to keep it as, mystical as I could.
I love it. All right, man.